Tom Mulcahy was the chairman of the '84 parade, and Tom he was also the sales manager for the Padres at the time, and Tom knew everybody in town. Tom and probably Mike Neal could have been elected mayor back then. They were that big then, and Tom knew everybody, and he was a big reason for the success of the Padres. I remember in '84 we went to the World Series, and I get a call from Tom, and I was a season ticket holder back then, and he said, "Hey, you haven't called me to see where your seats are." And I said, "Well, I know you've been deluged, and I really wasn't worried about it." And he says, "Brian, I really appreciate that." He said, "I've talked to people I haven't talked to in 25 years that want tickets." And he said, and I said, "Well, I knew you were busy. Don't worry about it." And he said, "Well, I want to thank you." He says, "You're sitting next to me." So for the World Series, we're sitting between home plate and third base in the front rows, and to this day it's probably the best seats I've ever had. And what a series we had. It was we beat Chicago, and my God, it was at the end of that game I was exhausted from the ups and the downs, and we were ahead and we were behind, and Steve Garvey hit that home run, but it just cleared the fence. It just cleared the fence. It was, I think God wanted us to win that game. And I was literally exhausted after that game from screaming and yelling and being up and then down and then up, and that's probably the most unforgettable baseball game I've ever been to this day. But anyway, Tom, just a wonderful man, and then knew everybody, absolutely everybody, and was very well thought of in the town. Could have been mayor, but so when the next year I'm the parade chairman and Tom is the president, and so I needed a check signed, and back then the president signed the check, and I needed a check signed for something. So I called Tom up and I said, "Hey Tom, I need a check for umpty-ump amount," and he says, "Come on down to the stadium and meet me at 7 o'clock, and I'll sign your check." And I said, "Okay." So the next morning I went down to the stadium, and sure enough he was there, and in his office Tom was an artist. Nobody really ever talks about this, but Tom has created 2 U.S. postal stamps. And one of them was of a baseball player, and one of them was an American Indian. It was just neat going into his office, but Tom, he used to be a priest. He went to Gonzaga and played baseball. He got drafted by the Cleveland Indians, and then he went into the priesthood, and they asked him, before you become a priest, is there anything you want to do? And he said, "Yeah, I want to play for the Cleveland Indians." And so they gave him his time off, and he went and played for the Cleveland Indians. And in the meantime, his girlfriend from Butte, Montana, they're both from Butte, Montana, he became a priest and she became a nun. And so he did his baseball thing, and his coach, Tommy Lasorda, was his coach, and this was I think this was a minor league team, and so Tommy comes with this guy from an opposing team, and he says, "Tom, this guy's got some troubles on his mind and he needs to speak to a priest." Well, Tom hadn't been ordained yet, but he'd been through all the training, so they went out in right field and he had a confession with the guy. And this all came out, we had a banquet for Tom at the Town and Country in Mission Valley one year, And Tommy Lasorda was the one that told this story. And so anyway, Mulcahy takes him out into right field or left field, and here's his confession, and they come back, and Tommy Lasorda said, that's the last time I ever did that, because the kid was the pitcher for the opposing team, and he threw a no-hitter on him. But all the baseball people and everybody Tom knew, he was a wonderful guy, and then he decided he didn't want to be a priest anymore, and he got out, and his girlfriend, who became a nun, she resigned her nunhood, and they got married. And it's just an unbelievable story for a man that he's one of those guys in your life that was such a character and such a good guy, and smart as a whip and stubborn as a mule. But I love Tom Mulcahy.